get started, I guess, with a bunch of people. Yeah, I guess I'll just start by saying some stuff, and then you guys can feel free to ask questions. Yeah, so I guess you guys have probably seen a lot of what's happening on, I don't know, Slack and Twitter, but I could just like start by giving a general overview of the situation. I think the basic story here is that starting last year, Alameda was kind of borrowing a bunch of money via open term loans and use that to make various illiquid investments. So like a bunch of FTX and FTX US equity, a bunch of like other ventures, investments, etc. And then with crypto being down, the crash, the like Reddit crunch this year, most of Alameda's loans got called, and in order to like meet those loan recalls, we ended up like borrowing a bunch of funds on FTX, which led to FTX having a shortfall in user funds. And so with the once there started being like fun about this and users started withdrawing funds, they kind of eventually were realizing that they were unable to not gonna be able to meet like the continued withdrawal pressure. And so reached out to various people, but ultimately like Binance. Ultimately, Binance and CZ was the one who came through with an offer to acquire FTX. And yeah, the basic kind of structure of the offer is that Binance would be acquiring FTX International, and it would be kind of paying enough cash to cover the entire like shortfall of user funds. And this wouldn't include FTX US or Alameda, but I guess various like other assets might end up getting sold off for I don't know, to pay back, like to, you know, add extra cash to the deal or to make the, you know, FTX preferred investors some money or other things like that. Yeah, I guess like then yeah, what does this mean? I guess mostly I want to say like I'm sorry. This really sucks. It really sucks for all of you guys. I think it's like really not fair to you guys. Like I think you've been doing a great job. You've been working really hard, doing good trades, and none of this is your fault, but it's kind of like ends up impacted by the situation anyway. I think my current default plan is that Alameda will likely wind down once we can like repay all of our creditors and sort of wind down a bunch of our like whatever remaining obligations we have. Yeah, totally like definitely no pressure for anyone to stick around. Like totally understood if you're like, I just like want to have to now. Also, even if you're like uncertain or you are sitting around or whatever, like definitely feel free to take a break, like go food, like whatever. But yeah, at the same time, do like super appreciate anyone who does want to stick around and help out during this like transition period. Like, yeah, I mean, I'll be here. I'll be like, we're just making sure that all of our creditors get made whole and kind of doing whatever we can do, though it's like somewhat out of our control, to make sure all the FTX customers get made whole and don't end up losing their deposits. Yeah, I think there is a bunch of, you know, work to do there. So definitely appreciate it if anyone does want to help out. Yeah, and then I guess for people who do stick around, I think it's like possible that there might be some kind of future thing. I don't know what that thing would look like, if that would be like another trading thing, or like maybe people will like take US, or maybe there won't be anything. So I think it's like, yeah, definitely too early to know what I or anyone else will end up doing after this. Yeah, really, really appreciate all of your guys' like hard work and dedication in the last few days. in general. So,
Like,
yeah, I think it's largely out of our hands, but I think like repaying all of our creditors and making sure like I don't know, like is probably like good just because like I don't know, what it seems was like going into bankruptcy, that's like bad. I don't know. And yeah, generally also like kind of then just like gathering the rest of our assets and trying to like kind of freeze up as much capital as we can. Like kind of the more extra capital we have in Alameda, the more capital.
Can you say how big the hole is? Or like,
I probably don't want to share the exact
Yeah,
number,
sure.
but it's
is it closer to like 1 bill or 6 bill?
uh
Or
somewhere.
How likely it is that the deal with CZ will go through?
I don't really know. I said 70% earlier, my parents said 40%. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know. By default, I sort of like expect CZ to like behave in very like whatever zero sum, just like try and fuck us over ways, like whatever, making us sign this deal, and then that's like exclusivity clause, and then will
I sent
be
the link out to other people on the team.
sorry, what?
You send a link out on general chat for the people on
Oh
the
yeah.
team.
Oh, is there not a link in the
Yeah,
chat? Oh,
I'll do that.
LOI that FTX and Binance signed has an exclusivity clause, so FTX can't consider any other offers for the next like 2 months or something. Yeah, or until then. I think the price is like in the agreement, but it's just the agreement is pending due diligence basically, like by the hoped for times,
we gonna say anything publicly
like
as
Alameda.
either as Alameda or FTX as to like what happened? Cause like I think a lot of people's assumption is that we just gambled the money away,
Mhm.
which I feel like would be much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure what FTX's like plan with statements, because they probably want to like see if they can get the deal with finance done first before like the public statements. Yet, I think definitely not planning that far ahead. I think like it's probably gonna take at least like a.
I still think you're muted.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. It was not muted before.
If enough people get.
I don't know if you can hear what is being said. but-
It was fine before.
Oh,
I think it's still up in the air what the rest will go towards, like sort of by default, I guess, owned by. I think like, or including like Hood, not that liquid, but
It's what, 400, 500?
yeah. I mean, I think they'll like kind of taking out loans.
Was there like a plan to eventually like pay this? Suppose this didn't happen, right? Like, was there in the roadmap of like, oh, when are we gonna actually like try to like pay this back and like make FTX like users not fucked if this didn't happen?
Mhm.
Or like was this like a we'll see
Yeah,
whenever?
I think, yeah, basically FTX was trying to raise in order to do this, but yeah, after the crash, no one wanted to invest, and question of like, should you try raising like big like a at a deeply like discounted valuation, or would that just make people get out more or something? But obviously, in retrospect, the plan of wait around for several months and like for the market environment to get better and then raise did not work out. Yeah, I think there's some hope that if we kind of like end up with enough assets, like some of those things, so that FTX equity holders end up getting something in the deal.
What type of legal stuff is gonna like come out of this? I imagine like, there's several people in this very place, like potentially yourself, which I hope wasn't the case, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a very good detailed answer right now. Like, yeah, we've heard a bunch of to start working on it. So, I mean, I think the overall answer is like, I don't know, if the Binance deal goes through and all users get paid back, then there won't really be people with like grievances or something. If that doesn't happen, there will be like more people with grievances. Yeah, I don't know if I feel like comfortable taking a strong stance on that or something. And yeah. feel free to talk to your own counsel or, well, I think, I mean, either way, our lenders are gonna call all of our loans, so we do have to like kind of wind down all. Then it goes into basically a bankruptcy process. I think the hoped for outcome would be that some like kind of consortium of like,
Is it just that the price went down, the loans that we had collateralized by between people learn?
I mean, I think that's true, but I think the like, that was actually not a huge factor in that like the loans we have were like,
The biggest factor is effective loan we got from FTX.
Yeah.
Right. And was that collateralized by, was that like basically officially done through the spot margin book, or is there some like extra thing that kind of powered that?
it was, yeah, it was not through the normal spot margin.
Oh, that seems pretty bad.
What'd you say?
What were the biggest illiquid investments that we made? I know that if you answer this question, it's gonna give us an idea of what the role is, but
Yeah, I mean, I think like FTX equity, there was like the FTX equity that we bought back from Binance, and then also,
that was 2.1 billion.
yeah, and then also some other FTX equity. That GDA, which is this mining company, Anthropic, which is an AI lab, K5, which is like people who talk to celebrities.
How
things
much,
like it.
how much is all this cost?
GDA is $1 billion, Anthropic is 500, K5 is 300. I think,
Well,
BlockFi was like almost nothing.
lawyers are bad.
Oh yeah, Voyager was like probably 100 or 200.
The deal goes down, then finance owns all those companies.
No, so those are not part of the Binance deal by default. Like, we might end up trying to like either sell some of the like. I think the idea is like it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to all be like thrown into the Binance deal because like. Yeah, that's it.
Wait, wouldn't that be more of a reason though for?
Yeah, I think it's like you can only effectively leverage FTX US. Did this all like start with like a tweet where Sam was like, "Oh, CC like isn't allowed." I have no idea. And like you should shed some light on this.
Yeah, so looking back, do you think that like what happened like was inevitable or?
Point. I don't think there was a great way to prevent it. Like, oh no, okay, it's probably not inevitable at any point. It was definitely quite preventable like a year ago.
I guess I'm saying more like I guess like recently like if you know a balance sheet. Chip.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely possible that it wasn't like this was like a random like crazy. It's sure like Sam thinks it was like simply I don't know how. I mean, we sent it to like a bunch of people, so
Were you aware that like this was gonna be an issue? Like,
that'd be like FTX whatever user deposit
Yeah.
thing, or like the more recent, or like the actions being like a run on FTX.
all the above. I'm sure there are different timelines to you became aware of each thing, but like,
Mhm.
you know, I'm interested in all the answers.
Yeah, I think I was like sticking up that well on it. So we weren't.
And who else was like aware of this? I mean, I'm guessing you and Sam certainly were. Like, I'm guessing it's probably very few people.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I know. I mean, I sort of feel like to an extent you can like piece it together if you like looked at like Pointer or like looked at like some spreadsheets for a bit or something. So it was like sort of possible for a lot of people to be aware of it, but I guess that most people weren't.
I mean, like more like explicitly aware, as in like told like this is what we're doing. Like in terms of like meetings that were had, I'm sure like this wasn't just a YOLO thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I talked about it with like, I don't know what the plan is. Probably, I kind of assume that if you know CZ does take it over, yeah, I don't really know what the plan is. I think like FTX, like basically always allowed.
Did we have to listening over those?
We did most of the time in practice. I think just because.
Did Alameda have the ability to touch user funds without getting approval from FTX each time?
I think basically the structure was that like Alameda like kind of go negative makes sense that I don't know, some people would want equity and other people would want like a token. They sort of serve different purposes. I don't know. Liquid and it's like kind of fun and like maybe you could stake it and get rewards or something and for like legit official like ownership thing.
logistically, like if we stay on to help Alameda transition, like working out of this office, like are we
Yeah, I
visa
think-
stuff, like compensation?
yeah, I think
Kinda
nothing is changing for now. Like, yeah, we're getting out of this office.
Did Alameda take any steps like other than sort of wait and see to like proactively start winding down as the problems started mounting? Or were we kind of putting all our chips on market conditions just improving?
Maybe they mounted in like May and June, and then we're sort of flat, and then like she came out, and then like a spiral. So once balance sheet came out, there was not very much time after that.
Right,
In
but
terms of like, yeah, after like May and June, we did like kind of hedge more of our, turned out to actually be bad. Well, I don't know, I guess being that like, oh, if crypto goes down, then we're more likely to have like withdrawal, but then in fact, it didn't go down, but then we had unrelated withdrawal issues.
I joined a little bit late, so sorry if this question has already been asked earlier. But is there anything being done for employees who kept funds in their employee accounts?
I'm gonna guess not. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's zero chance. Like, I think there is some chance that that could make sense. I just kind of like think it's like not the default outcome, so I don't want to like kind of have people like assume that that will be the case. Yeah, I mean, let's say if nothing else, we should probably change the name. I feel like a reputation from doing something right now.
Was a quorum with them.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're not an L. I'm an L. Yeah, I don't know. Alameda, I feel like maybe we should just never say anything publicly again and hope people forget about us in time. Sam or X, I imagine yeah, I'm guessing they will make like more of a, I mean, just because they like haven't said that much publicly yet, I'm guessing they will make more of a public statement at some point. I don't know how detailed that will end up getting.
Are we expecting the details of?
Yeah, not sure. I mean, I guess Michael Lewis is writing a book about it, so, you know, that sense.
has CZ in the talks of the bailout agreement like indicated anything specific about Alameda? Like he wants to look at Alameda's books, or he has this idea about Alameda, or the deal would only go through if Alameda did X or anything like that, or is it strictly with FTX International?
No, I think he's basically just been interested in FTX Internet. Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't even necessarily make sense for him to look into Alameda's books. I feel like he could just say like, give me X dollars of cash and then figure out how to like generate that from Alameda's books or something. Like if you've ever looked at Alameda's books, they're
International plan to continue.
yeah, I guess it is like I think they would like to kind of resume withdrawals and get back to normal as soon as possible. Can't really do that until they get the money from Binance. I haven't really been paying attention to this. My impression from just like glancing at Phil's summary sometimes.
Part of helping Alameda wind down or like that, Alameda obviously had a mandate to help lots of liquidity on FTX. That's still going to be like a big part of like, as an example, today we got like a lot of bad BLP bills.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know what the plan is for BLPs on FTX.
We have
can
some
figure
good
it out.
ideas. You can't even withdraw What's like the number one thing that like CZ could find in his DD that would make?
I like don't actually know. Like it seems pretty like I feel like FTX is like pretty like kind of straightforward business in a way. I mean, except for having like a big shortfall in user balances. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean also, yeah, I guess I understand his desire to do at least some amount of DD because I feel like LOI was signed based on like he had like a phone call with Sam and Sam was like, oh yeah, like here are like 3 like indicative numbers about FTX. He's like probably wants to like look at a few more numbers. But yeah, I think he was interested in like a lot of like things like, you know, user numbers and like yeah, and the shortfall.
I understand that one of our biggest like liquid bags that we've had like for a long time is like locked Solana, like vulnerably locked on chain. Like what I'm sure we've talked to Solana people, like what's the communication with them, and sure that like out of all things you could liquidate from us, that's probably one of the more attractive things.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I don't think we've talked to Solana people, or and I feel like we've talked to them like once or something, and they were like, oh, like no, you can't sell it, it's locked. I mean, that was obviously like different time from now. So, yeah, I think like, yeah, for now, like, we want to liquidate anything that is to liquidate, and then like for the super illiquid stuff, just like hang on to it.
So this is probably like pretty bad for.
I mean, we don't actually have that much Solana at this point. I guess it's been bad for FTT so far, which is the thing we have a lot of unlocked.
Circling a little bit back, like questions about a possible viable future for Alameda. You had kind of mentioned like we have these assets, but we would be expected to give a lot of them to FTX or to SAM or to various, FTX ventures or whatever via SAM. Has there been any like discussion to the idea that if Alameda is still this like profitable trading firm with this good team and this IP and people want to stay, like it might be better for Sam to say, hey, can we like repay you more in full later by letting Alameda like because he kind of can make that call, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think like right now, I feel like just getting the FTX users made whole is sort of the like number one overwhelming priority. So kind of been like putting other stuff to the side. Like I feel like, if that happens, then afterwards, like it makes sense to like kind of just like take a look and be like, so what do we have left? Like what is the best way to use these various things?
Yeah. Appreciate you being upfront about like
News, right? And then they
Oh.
don't.
Unlikely. Crypto.com also suspends USDT Solana.
I guess in the hypothetical world where we find funding to make users whole, you still have appetite to try to make Alameda viable potentially? Or
Yeah, I think I definitely have some appetite, but yeah, it's
tons of
to
uncertainty?
think about right now.
Sure.
A lot of uncertainty. It's a reasonable question. I guess I think it sort of they didn't cost that much. Like or the BlockFi deal, it was kind of like I guess BlockFi had maybe like $100 million shortfall or something. So yeah, so I feel like there's maybe some argument for being like, this is a small shortfall relative to what we have. And
Yeah, it's all over Twitter in the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Seems like fun, nothing legit.
Uh,
So what happens if this is true? What happens? How does Alameda proceed?
like if there's no deal,
Like if literally CZ tweets right now, yeah, that's true.
It's reported by the same girl who, do our
I don't know. This is a dumb question, but like, what exactly does going bankrupt mean? I think like, I don't know. I think unless something changes, it seems like we'll probably be able to pay our loans back. But it doesn't mean that we didn't necessarily go bankruptcy process. Like, that's like a thing if you just like have a bunch of standing loans and you have enough to pay them back probably, but it's sort of complicated. You like go through like an official bankruptcy process. Like,
But like, what does this, if we assume that the CZ falls out and this is true, like, what does Alameda look like in the next month? So
I mean, I think that actually like whether or not the CZ deal happens maybe doesn't affect like Alameda's next steps that much. And like it's still kind of just like
Be X amount left after like repaying all.
unclear.
Couple tweets that you went Saturday, right? We have like 10 billion or so. What was that like? Like, is there some interpretation of that which is accurate, or was it sort of like a?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an interpretation that says like whatever 20 billion of it or FTX equity at like previous marks. It was like not literally true. I feel bad about that.
or nuance, I guess, or like accurate visibility and everything. Like, was that like quit out 500 million at 22?
I mean like before there were like $5 billion of FTX withdrawals. I don't know.
But like the plan would have been to continue.
Yeah, I mean I also did like to be clear, I also like thought it was very low chance that he took me up on it. I don't know. Did you ever read about like Celsius or 3 Arrows or whatever? Crypto lending space was kind of wild for longer purchased in.
Yeah.
I think the number one would be Euclid Way. Number 2 would probably be Alameda Research Ventures LLC. More questions? Yeah. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all of you kind of bearing with us.
Thank you for answering all these. Like, I'm sure this is not that fun for you, but I'd certainly appreciate how open you're being.
Thanks. It was kind of fun. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.